While everyone was hyped over Link's Awakening and the release of the Genesis Mini last week, a subtle product also hit Fangamer's digital shelves for all you Neo Geo people. The game that dominated the summer of 2018 for me, Pulstar, saw an official release of its soundtrack. Most of you guys know I grew to really love this game despite its difficulty, and when you play something repeatedly to try and master it, you can sometimes grow tired of a game's annoying music, especially when you're growing frustrated with repeated deaths and the soundtrack is just there blaring in an almost mocking manner. But I never felt that way about Pulstar, ever. In fact, if anything, the audio was an almost soothing presence and something that I found enjoyment in even during times of frustration. The tracks really have this spacey vibe to them, but certainly not in a cheesy way. They are rather refined and timelessly futuristic, if that phrasing makes any sense at all. I also really love the varying intensity of the tracks to match the stage or the state of progression in the game. For instance, the opening track is fast and full of excitement, helping to introduce you to something new and fun. And then you have tracks like Wrath of Earth for stage 3, where it's slightly slower and intense, and sure enough, the game has you moving both forward and backwards somewhat slowly, but very methodically. Even stage 5 evokes this organic discovery feeling as you make your way through waterfalls and flora, encountering more green than any other part of the game. I really could go on about this, but you guys get the point. Not only are the tracks solid, but they match the game's theme, elements, and situational vibe. This is truly auditory art that is delivered masterfully on the Neo Geo, making it my favorite soundtrack across the entire library. So with that said, we know the score for this shooter is awesome. So how is it presented? Well, the disc is split into two halves, giving you both the AES tracks as well as the Neo Geo CD version of the tracks. This is most welcomed as there is some variance between the two cartridge and disc versions like you might expect. The versions of the tracks used to compile this album are shorter than what are on the actual game disc. The track I'm showing on top here is Stage 1 directly from the Neo Geo CD game disc, and the bottom track is from the Fangamer soundtrack. There are some subtle differences with this remaster, as you can probably see with the graph, but for the most part, each track sounds very close to its source material. I do want to call out that the AES versions of the tracks are very flat sounding. They almost seem like they are coming from a compressed source. Now I understand that the CD tracks were always going to sound sharper and more crisp, but even the audio from MVS gameplay captures that I've done of Pulstar sound more rich and full-bodied than this. I can't quite put my finger on why this is, but it's definitely just a little lackluster. In total, you're getting 36 tracks here, half of which are the cart renditions and half are the CD renditions. Even short tracks like Ocean War and Headwaver are included, which are the songs used for the continue and name entry screens. The CD case itself is pretty standard and is filled with artwork from the game, like you might expect, and it also contains some nice liner notes. I also like that the actual disc was stamped with a drawing of the game's final boss. This disc costs $15 from Fangamer.com, which seems about right to me. I think $20 is probably too high. $10, it's not worth their effort to even produce these due to the minimal amount of sales this will likely see. There was also a vinyl option and a signed vinyl copy that have both since sold out. If you're not up for spending the $15 on this though, and you are fortunate enough to own the Pulstar game CD, you can still grab the tracks right off of that disc and burn your own audio CD or compress the tracks to MP3. Similarly, if you have an AES or MVS cart and a Unibios, you can listen to the tracks through the jukebox player. This is also a good way to get clean captures of the audio if you're interested in the cart versions of the tracks. So So that's really it for this release. It's not super fancy, there isn't any heavy remixing going on, no collector's packaging, lenticular, or foil covers. It's just a pure, straightforward offering of both versions of an awesome game's phenomenal soundtrack. Overall, I'd rate this as a solid B and recommend picking it up if you're a fan of the game or just Neo Geo in general. Definitely let me know in the comments down below if you'll be grabbing this. Don't forget to drop a like if you would be so kind. Subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I will catch you all next time. Later, guys.